Thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be able to be here and share with you information on a topic that I think is so important. Consumers, consumer attitudes and trends, their satisfactions with fruits and vegetables, primarily fruits, we're talking about ripening, and the huge opportunities you in the industry have to increase that satisfaction and increase consumption. So I'm going to share several studies with you that show what's important to consumers, and I'm going to go specifically in on what things they're buying. Then I'll be sharing some work that we did in collaboration with Florida, looking at attributes of specific products, and then finally finish on how you might address these to enhance your market share. So the first of these slides is from the International Food Information Council, and it shows over the years what consumers say is important to them. It's a response to a generic question about what are the factors that influence you when you purchase food. And of course, over all the years, the most important factor that they're looking for, good taste. What I find interesting is how the other factors pop up and down over time. Price comes out second as most important factors, and you'll see in some years it's higher than other years, kind of in the lower side right now. In 2011, 80% said they were strongly influenced by price. Healthfulness is down there. It also pops up and down depending upon what's in the media, what they hear, if they find some marvelous attributes that produce can address. Healthfulness becomes more important to them. Convenience might not be at the top of the list, but in today's busy world, it's always important. And then sustainability, something you've heard a lot about. They just started asking this question in 2011. You see it's less important than the others, substantially less. So taste is your driving factor. This is from the IFIC, but it's consistent with other groups who are looking in the same area. So this next is from Produce for Better Health Foundation. They do annual surveys of either moms or moms and dads, and they're looking at what's important for you when you're shopping for fruits and vegetables. And people here are counting freshness and cost and taste as the three most important things. Family preferences vary. Someone likes one item, someone else in the family likes another. They always keep that in mind. Healthfulness, also an important factor. I'm going to look at healthfulness first to share with you. Have you seen My Plate? How many of you have seen My Plate? Oh, about half. Well, you know, the government issues these guidelines. This is developed by USDA. They used to have the food pyramid, and the pyramid had fruits and vegetables, had sweets, had yummies at the tip of the pyramid, and then it went down to, and the base was carbohydrates, and fruits and vegetables were in between there, and they were telling you how many servings a day you should have of all these items. And the food pyramid was replaced by My Plate. Now, the exciting thing about My Plate is half of that plate is fruits and vegetables. So this is government sanctioned, approving, not telling you eat 5 or 9 or 15 or whatever servings of a particular item. But when you're eating, make half of what you eat fruits and vegetables. And then the other items are there as well. I think it's a huge opportunity for produce because most people are not eating this way. The next slide shows how many people have heard about My Plate over the years. And unfortunately, there has not been a huge change. Let's see if I can do this. A lot. I know a little bit about it. I've seen it, but I don't know too much. Never heard of it. So, hasn't been recent information on My Plate, but it is an approach, a technique that you can use, and you can push a button to remind those people who've seen something and have a little bit about information and say, my product fits right in here. The things you're talking about fits right in here. Make half of your plate Every time you eat, make half of it produce. So how do people respond to that? This is from Produce for Better Health Foundation. You know, that's funded by the fruit and vegetable produce industry. They're the main contributors there. Do you believe that your family is eating enough fruits and vegetables? Well, we have about less than half, 42% of the fathers and 47% of the moms saying, yeah, we're eating just about right. A few people think they're eating too much. I don't know where they came from. I doubt that they're really eating too much. But you've got a lot of people, almost half of the population, who says, oh, we aren't eating quite as much as we should be. So that, again, is your marketing opportunity. You've got between 45 and 49% of the population saying, in their mind, they should be increasing their consumption of this product category. Oh, what a boon. What a boon. So what are the top sellers? I'm going to give you a couple, well, 3 looks at top sellers right now. What do you think are the top sellers in fruits and vegetables? Well, you haven't looked at your slide set yet, so I'm glad about that. What do you buy most often? Yes? I'm sorry? Lettuce. Okay. But we're doing ripening, so let's talk about fruit. Yes, lettuce is good. Lettuce is good. What's the top seller in fruits and vegetables?
Bananas.
Bananas and? Oh, mangoes. They're growing. Did I hear anything else? Apples? Strawberries. Very good. Very good. Top sellers. This is consumers saying, yes, I bought this fruit last year. And we have bananas and apples vying for the top sales. But I've looked at this over the last 20 years. It really doesn't change a heck of a lot. Bananas and apples are always at the top. They're vying for number 1. Characteristics of those products: consistent and always available in the marketplace, and consistent in flavor. What's grown significantly in the last few decades is grapes and strawberries. Wow, look at how high they are. I have my own personal preferences of produce. I'm sure you do as well. But when I look at this, I can't believe that half of the people, less than half of the people, bought a peach last year. Oh, what they have lost. What opportunity and flavor and juiciness and wonderfulness they have lost by not buying a peach. And 40%, only 40% said they bought a pear last year. Oh, gosh. Now, I'm a California girl. I've had avocados all my life. Practically in utero, I've had avocados. But still, there's an opportunity there as well. Let's look at what parents say are their kids' favorite fruits and vegetables. Now, the other was, did you buy it? And they had to remember, this is what my kids like. And you've got strawberries, apples, and bananas up there as number 1. And they only got to choose 1 item, so I guess it's reasonable that some of these others should be so low. But these can be magnificent products when they are ripe and when they are fully ripe and served appropriately. So I consider, again, this is lost market opportunity. And then the final on what people are currently buying. This is from Economic Research Service. It's actually disappearance data or presence in the supermarket, and the government uses that as a substitute for what people are actually buying. But it reinforces the products that are the most commonly purchased. They show here different forms. So they have juice, they have frozen products, canned, fresh, and juice. The fresh is the green. So citrus, but here are your 2 big fresh items, apples and bananas. Grapes and strawberries are up there pretty well. Pineapples are measurable. Watermelons are measurable. But all those other fruits, pears, peaches, mangoes, all these other wonderful, delicious fruits are not even big enough to put on their map. So, again, an opportunity that's missed. So what are some of these barriers? Why are people not buying as many fruits and vegetables as they could? Well, from Produce for Better Health Foundation, the things go bad before I get a chance to eat them. Is that an issue on choosing and storing and knowing how to store them? I'll show you some information later on what people say on how they store items. Fruit is too expensive. Oh, well, you know, people always want things to be less expensive. I'll address expense again later on. I need new ideas on how to prepare it to make it different, novel, exciting for my family. And my family has different preferences. Truly, we do all have different preferences. It was 2 phases. We first did qualitative work, where we had focus groups with 8 to 12 people sitting around. We chose people who liked fruits and vegetables, who purchased at least 3 of our 7 or 9 fruits and vegetables we were looking at. They purchased them all the time. And then from those interviews, focus group interviews and discussions, we developed a quantitative survey that we did a web survey on with 1,000 people from, again, Florida and California. It was an internet-based survey. So for our large survey, the internet-based survey, the majority were women. Well, women still do most of the shopping, so I think that is appropriate. Primarily, it was Caucasians. Those are the people who responded to the survey, though there was a small representation from other ethnic groups. And the age distribution was really quite broad. I think it was well balanced as far as age. We had from the young households, the 18 to 29-year-olds, all the way to including older households. And I'm going to share with you an overall view of what we found and then go specifically to some of the commodities. If people were not satisfied with quality, what did they do? Well, if they couldn't find what they liked at the regular supermarket, they went to the farmer's market or to roadside stands, or they bought something different. And they said that they would switch supermarkets if the product they bought from one market was not up to quality. So they would go looking elsewhere. Remember, these are people who really like fruits and vegetables. And so if their store didn't have it, they would go elsewhere somewhere that did. What did they look for? Characteristic color and odor. If some products had aroma, they were seeking the odor. They wanted fruit that was firm but not hard. They didn't have a clue on how to choose melons. Some of them stored products correctly. They did this by habit, or perhaps they'd heard it in school or in one of the classes they had while they were in formal school, like high school. Some stored products quite inappropriately, and their storage helped lead to product poor quality and help lead to rotting. I'll give you some quotes from that later on. Were they aware that fruits were nutritious? Yeah, they knew in general fruit is nutritious. It's something my family should have. But they didn't really know the details about fruit. They knew that tomatoes and strawberries and blueberries were really great for nutrition, but they were not knowledgeable about anything special about the others. Generally, it was good. But even in that case, they thought some products were not as good as they could be. For example, I remember one person saying that watermelon, well, that's sweet water. They did not realize that watermelon had nutritional attributes as well. So the opportunity to share something about the nutritional value of your produce items, that's there. People would like it. Few knew how much fruit they should be eating. They had not heard about or had not internalized the idea of the My Plate concept. Now, Produce for Better Health approaches this by saying more matters. So whatever they're eating, they should be eating more. But people really had no clue as to where they should be. So again, anchoring it with half of your plate, I think would be useful. The primary driving factor for many people was a high-quality fruit so their kids would eat fruit. They were most concerned about their child's health and well-being, and they wanted to instill healthy diet in their kids, and they wanted their kids to love it. So the fruit had to be sweet and succulent, so their children would ask for more. They'd ask for a cherry or a peach or whatever instead of a candy bar. So I know that's a high offering, but when you have a good peach, you can prefer it to a candy bar. A high quality fruit is a rare gem. I chose that as a quote from one of the groups because it was agreed upon by so many. Both aspects. It was rare. They didn't find it as often as they would like. And it was a gem. When they found it, it was superb. So they need to find that more often. So some more of our findings: disconnect between how good things looked and whether they actually delivered on taste and flavor. For some people, the produce went from the hard, not ready for me yet stage to the rotten stage without ever passing through ripe. So they didn't know how to do it, or perhaps it was harvested too early. They want to be able to control when their product is ripe so that it can be ready for their special event. And they're looking for advice, trustworthy and valid advice that will help them handle their products the way they need to make them ripen. So now then, giving you more details specifically about the people. This is from the survey. As I mentioned, we chose people who ate fruits and vegetables. We didn't want to have someone who had never had one of these products before. So our survey included tomatoes, strawberries, blueberries, cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon, other melons, peaches, and pears. And you see the percentages who bought those products. And, I pulled your attention to the peaches and pears being purchased by less than half of the people based upon the Packers survey earlier in the slides. And you see here we've got 77 or almost 78% who'd bought peaches and 69% who bought pears. So these people are people who are buying the products. It's not someone who's never had them before. They are buying the products. And all of these cases, they're buying at pretty good rate. So what are the things? I'm looking at some of the specific, not every one of the products, but some of the specific ones. Let's look at tomatoes. How often do you buy tomatoes? And we have people who buy them weekly, 42%, and 2 to 3 times a week. Those are these characteristics. So we've got more than 3/4 of the people who are buying tomatoes fairly often. And why do they like to buy tomatoes? Well, some of them go straight out, I like the taste. Others say, I'm buying it for a special recipe, or I'm buying it for someone in my house who likes to eat them. We gave them a whole range of reasons they could check, and those range of reasons were based upon the individual interviews and the focus groups we'd done earlier, and they got to check the top 3. So they might have had lots of reasons, but these were the top 3 most important reasons that they checked. And what did they look for when they looked for tomatoes? Again, the same concept. We gave them a whole range of things. They checked the 3 that were most important when they looked for. They looked for fruit that was, most preferred attributes. They wanted it firm, they wanted it juicy, and they wanted it the right color. And most important, when you actually are in the supermarket and you're buying them, choosing one tomato versus another tomato, freedom from defects, firmness, and color were the most critical factors. Smell was not that high because, frankly, in the grocery store they're cold and you don't really get very much smell. So smell was not that high. If you are dissatisfied with your tomatoes, what is the most common reason? The most common reason for dissatisfaction was they were flavorless and they were too soft. Some also commented bruised, not ripe, mealy, or the internal color was too pale. Those were some of the key factors. If we said if you could improve tomatoes, What would you do? What's the most important thing you would do to improve them? Improve the flavor, was the response. So that improved flavor can reflect your varieties, when you harvest, how you handle after you harvest, and how you tell the consumer to handle it in their home. All those factors can influence flavor to some degree. Now let's look at peaches, as you've gathered, one of my favorite commodities, one that's under-enjoyed, I believe. What's the most important factor in a peach? We asked in the focus groups for them to imagine their very best peach that they've ever had in their lives. And our responses were, the one I like best, I have to eat it over the sink, because when I take a bite, the juice, it's soft, and the juice runs down my arm. You've had one like that. Maybe rarely, but you've had one like that, right? And it's memorable, and you want to do it again. So on our consumers in the surveys, what is the most important attribute for them? Sweet and juicy with the right aroma. Now I'm going to combine for you, I'll say right now, aroma. I had people in the focus groups tell me, I'm walking through the produce section and I smell the peach and it calls me. I'm reminded of Winnie the Pooh. I've got grandchildren now. You read it, and Winnie the Pooh is called by his honey pot. And I think a peach can call a consumer too as you walk by it, if you've got that aroma coming up. So this combines peaches and pears, and this most important factors in selecting. They want it firm. When they select it, they want it firm. They're looking at price, they're looking at smell, they're looking at freedom from defect. Those are the most critical factors. And smell is more important for the peach than the pear, because I think more peaches seem to provide that odor sometimes than the pears do. Price is an impediment, but it's not an overwhelming impediment. And let me share with you from our focus groups. So we had a total of 11 focus groups, 6 in California and 5 in Florida. Every one of those focus groups, when we were talking about pears, there was someone in that focus group who said, Harry and James pears. They cost a great deal, but they are so glorious. Their taste is so unique. They're sweet and succulent and juicy, and they're worth the price. So price can be an impediment, but when you offer price, when you offer quality, consumers can view that they are worth that price. Reasons for dissatisfaction: flavorless, too hard, not ripe enough. So again, how was it at the supermarket? How early was it picked? How was it handled there? And how do the consumers handle it? Most important factors in selecting cantaloupe and honeydew. Smell was much more important with the cantaloupe than the honeydew, probably because they smell more. Cantaloupe, again, it was one, sometimes you can walk by and smell it. Firmness, they want it firm, they don't want it soft and gushy, but when they eat it, they do want it soft. Reasons for dissatisfaction for both of these products: flavorless, not sweet enough, not ripe enough. Now they had about 8 to 10 things they could choose from. These are what came out most of all. Watermelon, what's the most important factor in selecting a watermelon? Price. Watermelon was more price sensitive than any of the other commodities. It was the most important factor that influenced them. Size was a characteristic. Some wanted it small for individual, some wanted it large for a group. And the industry has responded wonderfully with giving this kind of variety. What are the reasons for dissatisfaction with the watermelon? Flavorless, not sweet enough, not ripe enough were the most frequently checked. So let's look at an overall. How often are consumers dissatisfied with ripened fruit? I'm sorry, how often are they satisfied? How often are they satisfied? So you want, I'm always or I'm often satisfied. You want the orange and the black. And the orange and the black are there, but what you don't want is I'm only satisfied half the time, or rarely, or never. And those columns are too high, in my view, on pears and peaches and melons and tomatoes. They are too high. I'm rarely satisfied. One of our questions in the focus group was, would you pay more for a ripened tomato? And the response was, why would I pay anything for a tomato that wasn't ripe? Why would I buy something that was dissatisfying to me? So attitudes toward fruit quality. I feel that getting a good tasting fruit is by chance alone. How many agree with that? We've got strongly and somewhat agree, and we've got about 40%. Getting a good tasting fruit is chance alone. Wow, I need to move that to less. And then we have what consumers find, when consumers find food, what are they likely to do? I go out of my way to buy more of that fruit. So if you give them something good, we've got 2/3 of them who will say, I'll buy more. If you give them something that they are dissatisfied with, you've got half of them, more than half, who said, I'll wait a couple of weeks before I buy again. And you also have people who say, and this is 44%, who say, I'll go to a different store. So that's lost sales. So now some of my quotes. I think so far, the only one I've not been lucky with is melons, because you can't see that fruit yourself. You can't see the inside. To me, it's 50-50 chance. I either get it or not. It's the luck of the draw. I don't know a lot about selecting honeydew, so I don't do it myself. This person goes to the produce clerk. I don't think the produce clerk knows much about selecting them either, but that's what they do. Will it ripen on me if I leave it out once I buy it? Or is it too late? I don't know. This is someone who likes the product, buys it often from Florida. They know quality fruit, they don't know how to ripen it. And then this, when I buy really unripe fruit, I leave it in my car for 24 hours, and the next day I bring it in. Well, in California, leaving it in your car, that's going to be probably over 100 degrees. And you know that's not a good way to ripen your fruit. So sources of information about fruit, the internet, most frequently sought. Most useful information, a whole range of things. But among this, I want to learn how to store them. The challenges then for you are to deliver flavorful produce, tell people how to select that produce so they'll know how to buy it in the first place, describe which fruit can be ripened and how to ripen it, and then describe how to store it once you've ripened it so you're maintaining quality and safety. These are the critical factors for you. The first, and why you're here, deliver them flavorful produce, and then give them something good, and with information take them to the next step so they can try, enjoy, buy more, and in the end that helps you and it's good for their health as well. Thanks very much.